Hey, I'm Erica Henry with Rebel Stitchers, and this is part of the Raw Wool to Roving series. Today I'm going to show you my outdoor setup for washing wool, and I'm also going to show you my whole process from start to finish on how I wash wool. This will be a long video, so I hope you enjoy it, but I hope to give you lots of tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Every fleece is different, so some of that's going to depend on which kind of fleece I'm washing today. For instance, alpaca is mainly just dusty. It's very, very dusty. Even after putting it through a tumbler, there's still tons of dust left. And you don't really have to use hot water with it because you don't have to melt the lanolin. However, I am going to be washing some Southdown today, which is a down breed fleece. And it is very heavy in lanolin, so it takes a lot of hot water to get that melted. But with the Southdown, you don't have to be as careful as you do with, say, merino, because it takes a lot to felt it. So there's a lot of variables that happen, but I'm going to show you my outdoor setup and show you how I do it. So these are the 3 tubs that I use, and then I use 3 totes as well, and this allows me to wash 3 fleeces at once. Whew, it is hot in Tennessee already, and it is only 8:13 in the morning. It's already hot and humid. I'm already sweating, so I'm probably going to get pretty gross in this video, but just stick with me. So, because you can't get hot water out of the hose pipe, well, typically, I'm having a hot water spigot installed, but I don't have one yet, so I'm going to show you what I do in the meantime. I fill up as much as I can with the hose pipe, and then I add pots of boiling water to the water as well to heat it up. With the Southdown, like I said before, we need the water hotter than what I'm going to need for the Gulf Coast native that I'm also going to be washing today. And the reason that we need it hotter is because it has a lot of lanolin, so it's probably going to need more washes and rinses than the Gulf Coast will. We'll just have to see what it looks like. I know both of these, or all of these fleeces were heavily skirted by the shepherdess, so yay, that's less work that I have to do. But if it wasn't, I would have to take it to the skirting table, skirt it really well before I ever started this process. So I'm going to fill all 6 of these tubs up. The Southdown, I will have less cold water than the 2 that I'm going to do for the Gulf Coast, because I want that boiling water to raise the temperature higher. So this one will be for the Gulf Coast, these two will be for Gulf Coast, and this one will be for the Southdown. And I'm getting them filled up right now, and I'm going to grab the boiling water, dump it in the Southdown, because I'm going to start with that first, and then get more boiling water going inside. Now, why am I doing this outside instead of inside? There's a few things. Number one, I do some of the fleeces inside in our big like jacuzzi tub, but only the alpaca and mohair. I don't really like to do wool fleeces inside, and that's because you don't want that lanolin to go down your drains because it can gum up and block your pipes. So that's one reason why I do it outside. Also, outside it dries a lot faster, so there's a few reasons why. and I don't have any on me at the moment, but when I do wash inside, I use laundry mesh bags. I usually use the ones with the zippers. These are ones that I use to hold the fleeces before they're washed or in the different processes, but I do use the sorry, the birds are going. I do use the zipper mesh pouches, and that keeps the hair from going down the drain as well. Now, let's talk detergents. So you have some options. When I first started out, I just used Dawn, just the regular old cheap Blue Dawn. It worked well. I used it for about a year, and there's a couple of reasons why. The first reason is because I didn't know if I would like processing raw fleeces. I found out I love it, but I didn't know if I would. So this is readily available, easy, pretty cheap, and works. But I have since switched to Unicorn Power Scour. And this stuff is amazing. I'm not affiliated with them. I will have an affiliated Amazon link that is just my Amazon Associates affiliate link. But Unicorn Power Scour themselves does not pay me anything to talk about this. I just love this product, and I've used it for about a year now. Yeah, about a year now. And now I actually buy it by the gallon and refill these bottles, because this bottle is about $25 US and it's only 16 ounces. It'll last a long time, but I wash way more fleeces than the typical person, so I buy by the gallon and refill these. So they both work. You will read a lot of things saying not to use Dawn, but I used it for a year. It was fine, but this just works so much better. So just some little tips there. Make sure that your Dawn does not have the enzymes in it, because those enzymes can damage the wool. But just the regular old Blue Dawn had worked for me for a year. The reason I switched to Power Scour is because I don't have to get the temperature as hot, and it uses less rinses, and it gets them so much brighter and whiter on the white fleeces. So I just love it. Works well, smells great. It's worth it to me. But if you're just starting out, get the regular Blue Dawn if you want. Give it a try. See if you like the process, because it is a very long process. As you can see, I'm out here in the Tennessee heat, starting to sweat. It's getting hot, but I will be out here off and on for a long time, because it takes a long time to wash fleeces. So, but it's worth it. So the Unicorn Power Scour does have directions. It says to use half a tablespoon per gallon of warm to hot water. Soak for 15 minutes and rinse in tepid water. I've never measured. Probably not a good thing, but I just go a lot by intuition. So I just put a good squeeze, depending on how dirty the fleeces are. The Southdown's very full of lanolin, so I like to put more and just rinse more. I'm going to go ahead and put it in this tub and this tub, because I'm going to give it 2 washes before I start rinsing, because I know how full of lanolin it is. The 2 for the Southdown will probably just get 1 wash, so I'm just going to fill up the black tubs first. Like I said, I just give it a good amount. I probably use too much, but this is what works for me. So I've got my big pot of boiling water here, and I'm going to dump it in, give it a second. For a really lanolin filled fleece, I like to use 2 of these, but I'm just going to test to see. Yeah, definitely need another one. And I try not to make too many bubbles, because those can be hard to wash out. Whew. Made it even hotter. But yes, that's a good temperature now. That's pretty hot to touch. So I'm going to go fill these up, get them boiling again for the Gulf Coast, and come back and add the Southdown to this first pot. So I have my Southdown fleece here. ready to go. Of course it fell out, wrong way. This particular one is a ram, and it did take first place in the fair here. I'm not worried about skirting it because I know it was skirted well, so we're just going to put it in. And since it's a ram, it's very smelly. It's very dirty. You know, lots of lanolin. Like, these tips are just lots of lanolin. So we're going to throw it in to the hot water that has Unicorn Power Scour in it. This fleece was a little bit bigger than I thought, so I probably should have split it into two, but we'll make it work. I'm going to push down gently into the water. It's hot. Very hot water. I usually have some tongs that I use, but I forgot to bring them out. And depending on the fleece, sometimes I will give it a cold water soak first. It just depends on how it's looking, but look how nasty that water already is getting. Sorry about the lighting, but I'm outside and can't control the sun and shadows, but we're gonna let this soak for probably a good 30 minutes, and we're gonna let the water cool down some, but not too much, because if it cools down too much, all the lanolin that's melting will just redeposit on the fleece. So you got to kind of catch it in that same temperature range where it'll still hot but not too hot. So we're going to let that fleece soak for about 30 minutes to an hour. We want the water to cool down some so I can squeeze out the water, but not too much because we don't want the lanolin to redeposit back onto the fleece. So I'm going to continue here, adding hot boiling water to the other tubs, adding in the Gulf Coast fleece to the other tubs, and I'll be back whenever it's time to switch to another tub. Okay, so our Southdown wool here has been soaking for about an hour because I wanted to give it enough time to start to cool off where I could squeeze the water out. And I'm going to dump 1 bucket of boiling water. And if you remember, we had already put some Unicorn Power Scour in this bucket, so it made some bubbles. And I'm going to stick my hand in and just see, yeah, that temperature is very close. So we're just going to need 1. Now, one option you have is to use a dedicated salad spinner. This is just for wool products, but since it's still really gross, I'm going to wait till it's rinse time for that. So I'm just picking up a thing, giving it a gentle squeeze, not rubbing it, agitating, not wringing, because that will felt. Southdown won't as easily, but other wools will. So just giving it an easy squeeze to get as much of this gross water out as I can. And I'm just dropping it into the next wash cycle. Now, if you would have used the zipper mesh bags, it makes this process much easier. However, when I'm washing outside, I like to not use them because I feel like it cleans faster if it's not in the bags. But if I'm doing something like Alpaca inside in my tub, I do use it because I don't want any of that hair going down my drain. And squeezing this just gets that dirty water out as much as I can and keeps it from transferring into the new water. Whew, it's hot today. And putting my hands in hot water does not help. look how pretty this is becoming. Nice and white. And as I said before, you want to try to have it a similar temperature. Because drastic changes in temperature can cause felting. You can't even see through this water, it's so gross. And that's all the dirt and lanolin that has melted. I don't always do a second wash cycle, but I do sometimes. It just really depends on the fleece. I know Southdown has a ton of lanolin, so I am doing a second wash. I am doing a second wash on the Gulf Coast as well because I have not picked it at all. It's just been skirted from the shepherdess, and I just want that extra wash. Almost to the end now. I can fill a little bit more in here, but not very much. And I'm never able to get it all. Some of it does end up on the ground, and it just goes to the birds. Alright. So I'm going to push this down in the water very gently. Dump this out and go get some more boiling water to do the same thing for the Gulf Coast native over there. And wash my hands because it's gross. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for this Gulf Coast. There is a little bit of Unicorn Power Scour in this second tub here, but not nearly as much as the first because it doesn't have as much lanolin. I usually don't do a second wash, but I just feel like I need to on this fleece. So, same thing, gonna come in here and just squeeze out this water gently. And I'm trying to tear it into a little bit more manageable sections. I meant to do that before I dumped it in, but I forgot. So just gently doing that so I don't felt it. Remember, not wringing, just squeezing. Whew, it's a big section. It's heavy. Should have poured this before. Okay. And like I said, I have not skirted this. I should have. It's good practice too, but she had skirted quite a bit, so I'm just making more work for myself really, but it's alright. Because if I skirted it, I could have made sure to get any felted pieces that were in there before I washed, but it's okay. Bad weather's coming, so I'm just trying to get as much done and washed up as I can. Gently push it down. Got it all. I'm feeling just tiny bits left in there. Getting what I can, but if some's left, it's not the end of the world. Gently pushing down. Gonna empty this water out, rinse the tub, and fill up with water. And you may be wondering why I haven't used the third black tote yet. or black tub yet. And that's because I can only boil 2 of those large pans at a time. Well, I could actually do 4, but I only have 2. So I have to get to a certain stage where I don't need as much hot water. And we are getting to that stage now. We're going to let this fiber soak for about an hour, see how much the water has came up in temperature from the sun, and see if it's about the same temperature as the second wash cycle. If it's not, we'll add some hot water till it gets there, but now I can start putting the hot water in the third tub. So I'm going to do that, get a third fleece, which will also be the Gulf Coast native. I'm out of the Babydoll Southdown. That was the last one that I needed to wash. So we're going to work on the rest of the Gulf Coast native fleeces. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've done for these others. The Unicorn Power Scour is already in that black tub, and there's a little bit in the blue tub. So I'm going to start adding the boiling water to that as it comes to temperature and get a third fleece going. Okay, we are on, these have both sat for about an hour. Both of the Babydoll Southdown and the Gulf Coast native have sat in the second wash cycle for about an hour. I've added a third fleece now, which is the first wash of another Gulf Coast native. So I'm going to squeeze the water out of these, put them into a plain water soak. This has been heating up in the sun. It's warm but not hot because both of these have cooled down pretty good. So I feel comfortable with the temperature change. It's not as drastic as it could be, so I feel comfortable not adding any more hot water to these. And just as before, I'm just squeezing out this dirty water, trying to not transfer much of it to the plain water. This water is still where I cannot see through it. It's crazy. But eventually we will get there. Couldn't squeeze that one as good as I wanted to, but it's alright. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like she skirted out some of these felted pieces that just naturally happen on fleeces when they're on the sheet. She usually skirts them pretty good, so it's kind of surprising, but it's alright. It just means that I'm washing stuff I really didn't need to wash. I think that's all I'm going to get now. So I'm going to dump this water out, fill it up with clean water for the next rinse cycles. Editing Erica here. I realized while editing this that I either completely forgot to film a final thoughts / outro, or I lost the footage. Either one of those, it could have definitely happened. So I'm just gonna do a little voiceover here. So I did want to say that throughout the day I just continued to switch the fleeces out to new clean water that was approximately the same temperature, if not a little bit cooler than what they were in before, until the water ran clear. So just continued to rinse and rinse and rinse basically. And it typically takes 3 or 4 rinses, sometimes more. It just really depends on each fleece and how disgusting they are. So it's never a quick thing, especially if we're thinking about the fact that each of these take, 20-30 minutes, an hour of just setting in the water. But it is a necessary step, especially since I like to dye all of my fleeces. So I do not like to spin in the grease because I like to dye the fiber before I spin. So thank you so much for watching. The next episode of Raw Wool to Roving will be coming out soon. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.